I'm going to hand it over now to Enchantress of Numbers for her run of Bio Miracle Bokutte Upa.
E vamos começar.
Alright, so as you can see from the title screen, this is Bio Miracle Bokutte Upa. I'm Enchantress of Numbers, and behind me, my couch is...
I'm Author Blues.
I'm Skyvilles.
Calarelli.
And so we're just going to go ahead and get started. Time starts on character movement, which is like 4 seconds after I start, so I'll just hit start and count it down. 3, 2, 1, go.
Bem, Bio Miracle Bokutte Upa. Como vocês podem ver, é um bebezinho, entendeu? Ele está tentando salvar o reino dele. E os poderes dele são bem diferentes. Ele tem um chocalho mágico, que quando ele agita na frente de inimigos, ele infla os inimigos. Se você simplesmente deixar, os inimigos vão voar por ar e explodir. Mas você pode também empurrar os inimigos, entendeu? E inclusive usá-los como plataformas. Normalmente o meio principal que você vai usar para matar chefes é esse. Você vai usar o chocalho nos minions e vai quicá-los contra o chefe.
Most of them are going to be the same pig boss over and over, but it's what separates them is sort of the distinction of how the room is laid out. They're all going to spit out enemies, and all of them are going to have to be returned in order to kill the boss.
Basicamente eles estão explicando o que eu acabei de falar. Agora a gente tem uma mecânica bem interessante. O nosso querido está preso dentro de um bolo e ele literalmente come por dentro do bolo para sair. Aquele damage boost foi intencional. Ele vai literalmente fazer a melhor rota possível enquanto come o bolo para poder sair. O bebê chama-se Upa. Ele é o príncipe de um reino mágico e o mais recente uma linha de bravos lutadores. Um dia, porém, ele quebrou uma urna que contém o espírito de Zai, que é um demônio incrivelmente mau com cheiro de bode, que leva a força da vida dos adultos do reino e sequestra todos os bebês, exceto Upa, que recebe um chocalho mágico de uma fada, que é as fadas que você vê no final de cada fase, né, que estava preso na urna junto com o Zai. E assim, para salvar seu reino, o Upa rasteja em ação.
So a lot of the extra health that you'll see her picking up throughout the game is carefully calculated which ones can be gotten without too much of a time loss. The extra hearts make a huge difference between the strats that you can use.
Ele está explicando que ele quer o coração extra, né, que ele pegou, porque faz diferença nas estratégias, porque realmente usa alguns damage boosts durante a run. Damage boost é quando você apanha de propósito só para não perder tempo.
This world it will be the pig one last time. But in future worlds, it will be a different boss, sort of varying it up a little bit. And a lot of times those strats will depend pretty heavily on damage boosting through things. Just going for a little setup here for an early hit.
Aí ele fez esse setup para poder acertar o mestre logo no começo.
To start the fight off, and it makes a huge difference between for the setup for the fight. So
it was a really good first hit. That's not an easy one to make.
O chocalho tem uma ação interessante, porque ele funciona muito bem para cima e para frente, mas ele não funciona tão bem para baixo, né? Então você tem que tomar muito cuidado na hora que você está utilizando ele para não... Quando você pula, principalmente, né? Porque ele tem um movimento que ele usa o chocalho e quando o monstro incha, ele sobe em cima dele. E é bem preciso, e se você pegar só com a parte de baixo, você na verdade acaba apanhando.
To try to make sure that enemies spawn at the perfect time. So the reason why the enemies are showing up at just the right times for her to make these big gaps are not just because the level happens to be laid out that way, but because from the very beginning of the level, the way that she spawned and despawned them was carefully done to make sure that all of the positions were best possible positions.
Yeah.
So that platform right there flashes on and off based on how many seconds you've been in the level. and it turns out that it does not take into account pausing, so it would disappear at just the wrong time, but pausing skips the
Vocês viram que
disappear.
ele deu uma pausa rápida ali atrás? Ele fez isso para com que aquela plataforma, ela tem um timer de quantos segundos você pode ficar em cima dela. E aí, pausando e despausando, ele reseta esse timer. E a gente tem uma fase da água, obviamente.
This is an exhausting level, especially since the run doesn't get particularly challenging until right after this stage. So for RTA attempts, you'll find yourself making it to this level quite often.
Bem, gostaria de perguntar aos meus companheiros aqui, para um bebê, o que vocês acham da força de pulo dele?
It really wears out your arm.
Um pouco
But
irreal, digamos
it's going
assim.
pretty well right now, and
É,
just a comment, you know, this run's going on super
Depende
early in
do
the
bebê,
morning
né?
or late at night, depending on your perspective.
Quando eu era criança,
And I think
Ele é
it's
de uma
no
linhagem de
coincidence
guerreiros, né?
because anyone who has experience with
Então-
young children knows the baby couldn't sleep through the night, so that's why we had to play now.
Your silly trivia for this level. This is one of 2 levels.
Inclusive, só tem um momento em que o bebê fica em pé, que é quando ele pega o power-up, que permite que ele ande, só que esse power-up desabilita o chocalho. E então ele funciona mais ou menos como a estrela do Mario. Você pega, você fica, derrota os inimigos ao toque, mas anda um pouco mais rápido, mas perde o chocalho. Ó, esse salto que ele acabou de fazer é realmente muito complicado, porque você tem que acertar com a parte de baixo do chocalho, então é bem
This jump
difícil.
right here that she's going to do is not intended. You're supposed to spawn another round of balloons.
Aquele salto ali também é bem
Barely
complicado, porque
It is a terrifying jump.
normalmente você teria que esperar. Então ele é bem preciso.
So one of the choices that Eon has made through this world is to save time by not going out of the way for some of the extra hearts, which makes this boss fight only more terrifying. There's a setup that she's working on right here to kill the boss before he gets over to the right-hand side. But if he gets loose from the side,
Muito bom.
he can really just sort of
Esse
box
chefe é bem complicado.
That was a really,
Se ele vai pro outro lado, você perde toda a manipulação que você podia fazer.
Yeah, it looks relatively straightforward. It's just a
Aí
constant
ele
volley of
conseguiu
enemies, but it's not
tranquilamente.
easy to line those all up and not take damage at the same time, because as soon as you bump one of those enemies to be used as a weapon against the boss, it also is able to damage you as well. So you have to line it up to attack the boss without putting yourself in harm's way at the same time. Everyone's favorite mechanic, Ice, now
Yes.
enters the fray.
It's also should be noted the iframes in this game are very long, and that's both for you and the bosses. So that's another reason why it's really difficult to do that stage well.
Ele também tá explicando que os danos que você toma, você tem os iframes, né, que são os momentos de vulnerabilidade, e esses momentos são muito grandes, tanto para você quanto para os chefes, né? Então o timing que você faz os ataques faz muita diferença.
So I wanted to mention something about what just happened there. This game has a mechanic that I think lovers of platformers will recognize and appreciate. This game actually does have false stun, which is a really neat mechanic for platformers, that if you fall far enough, you get stunned, and that's really frustrating. But one of the interesting things about this game is that that only affects you if you land on the ground, not on enemies. So she actually landed and hit an enemy with the rattle.
Se você faz saltos muito grandes nesse jogo, você já deve ter visto em outros dos jogos de plataforma, você fica meio que atordoado, né? Você fica parado algum tempo. Só que isso só funciona se você acertar o chão. Se você pular e cair em cima de um inimigo, você não sofre disso. Então ela tem feito isso.
A lot of the routing for these levels is just knowing in advance where enemies are sort of going to fly in and using them as platforms at the right moment. Because right now the enemies are helpful tools for speeding up a level, but later they're going to be the only way to proceed.
Bebezinho gelado ali.
Why it is called that will become much more clear later on in the run.
O chefe que a gente já conhece.
So every world has sort of its own gimmick going on.
Também é muito importante o ângulo que você bate nos inimigos depois de eles inflarem. Você quer acertar ângulos específicos porque o jogo não reconhece muito bem essa colisão. Parece fácil, mas não é tão fácil.
This world is ice, so thank God it's almost over.
A velocidade dele, dependendo da situação, acelera porque ele soma as velocidades do bebê e as velocidades do monstro inflado. Né? As garrafinhas de leite são basicamente para recuperar a vida.
Cool world, I see what you did there, Ross.
Yeah. So here's your second horizontally wrapping level, and this time.
Então, se ele estiver andando pro mesmo lado que o
you will be going back and forth over the sides of the screen.
Se o monstro estiver andando pro mesmo lado que o bebê, ele tem um pequeno boost de velocidade.
I was one of the earlier people to route this game, but she has come behind. Her and Cal have both put a lot of effort into finding new strats for the boss, and I think this one is one of the more interesting new ones. So
missed the early hit.
Yeah, that's a tough setup to get an early hit on this walrus fight. It's a tough fight on its own. He goes through these very long invulnerability periods, and making sure that he
Como vocês
stays
podem ver,
long enough to
os
get
mestres
5 hits on one cycle is
nessa parte, esse mestre ele
between Eon
usa
and Cal,
um lado da tela inverte pro outro, né? A fase inteira
quite a lot of interesting
andou assim.
ways of doing this fight and many of the other boss fights faster.
Yeah, for having missed that first fight or the first hit on the early hit there, that was a really well executed fight.
Yeah, it's so easy for this fight to get away from you very quickly. That fight is one of those ones where as soon as you mess up a setup, you often will find 2 or 3 cycles you can go through. Yeah, so this is the world where we start getting into these sort of gimmicky mechanics. For those of you who are lovers of Super Mario Brothers games, you may be familiar with the concept of puzzle castles. In Super Mario Brothers, there are often castles where, depending on where you walk through the level, determines whether or not either the level lets you proceed or loops. This level is exactly like that, in the sense that she is choosing a very specific route through the level, because if she takes any other route, it's just going to loop.
Basicamente, ele está explicando que nessa fase funciona também muito como os castelos do Mario, em que se você pegar o caminho errado, a fase simplesmente lupa. Então, o caminho que ele está fazendo é bem específico para garantir que não vai lupar a fase.
This game bizarrely times things for you really well. So you can see she's still running right, and the blue enemies that are coming in from the side, they just are amazingly not in the way. This game actually does time things for you really well.
Atrás deles, ali os três, quem está comentando principalmente é o Outer Blues.
Having confidence, you know, it's so easy to see those enemies coming at you and say, I'll just slow down and wait for them to pass.
Outer Blues, pra quem não conhece, é o rei dos jogos ruins, auto-intitulado.
There'll be 4 of those in a row that, yeah, you'll see.
So this level's
Com certeza ele merece o título.
Yeah, I don't understand why the game is upside down for the entire thing, and then we get to
Lupar,
one stage that's
né,
the correct
Felipe?
direction.
Lupar significa fazer em loop, fazer várias vezes a mesma coisa.
Put the HUD upside down on the top of the screen.
So one thing with this stage being upside down and all the spikes there, some of the damage boosts you are tempted to do, it will kill you very easily. So there's basically 2 ways through this level.
Temos mais uma pessoa triste por não ter acordado a tempo mineirinho.
Yeah, once you get to the second half of this level, it gets to a point where it stops giving you enemies to use for platforming and starts making the whole game
Mas não se preocupe que mais tarde vai ter o VOD pronto pra você assistir.
Não sei se vocês separaram, mas tem símbolos da Konami ali, né? Nas placas. Sim, esse jogo foi feito pela Konami.
So that's one of the terrifying damage boosts. I have never managed to pull it off without plummeting to my doom.
Something about the whole level being just
1988.
Way more
Pro
difficult than I
Family
think
Computer
jumping
Disk
upside
System.
down has any right to be.
E em 93 ele saiu pro Famicom. Hoje ele já tem no Virtual Console,
That level
desde
is one method of upside down.
2008.
The next level is going to be a different way to do things backwards.
Yeah, it's the only Dash 3 level in the game to have the distinction of having the boss first and then you play the levels. So that's the gimmick here, is that bosses always come at the end of the levels, except for in this one, where we're going to start with the boss and then we get to play the level.
A diferença desse nível agora, que ele explicou, você enfrenta primeiro o chefe e depois vai jogar o nível. Um pouco diferente.
This happens to be sort of a repeat boss, but What makes them interesting is the boss room there lends itself very easily to him just shooting fire straight at you.
Novamente, ela tá usando a tática de usar o sino nos bichos e quando eles inflam, ela anda em cima para ganhar um pouco de velocidade.
So well. The first one back in 1-2 can fire, like it spits fireballs at you, and that one's more of a flamethrower effect. And especially the first time, it can be really, really bad. So never seeing the snake fire, that's two really well executed fights.
So World 5, its gimmick is just office supplies, not the most...
Quem tá comentando é o Walter Blues, ali no fundo, né? É o primeiro da... Pra quem tá assistindo, ele tá à direita.
Can be intensely frustrating because the conveyor belt mechanic affects you anytime you're touching it from either side.
Isso é bem apertado.
Standing on top of it, but that also means touching it from the bottom. You're affected by it pretty heavily.
So there is a quick jump you can do there, but it is very easy to miss, and if you do miss it, you're in a world of hurt. So taking it safe there for a marathon setting, absolutely the right call.
Yeah, and there's no checkpoints in the game, so...
O jogo não tem checkpoints, né? Então tem que tomar cuidado.
Before you get to it, so I can set it up. This is another boss fight that was intensely frustrating in the speedrun, but Eon actually did a lot of work to learn sort of a new setup for doing this fight quickly. She missed the early hit for it that sets it up perfectly, but nonetheless, doing this fight on a conveyor belt is already just infuriating.
Yeah, and actually just earlier this week, Cal found a better setup than I was using previously to get the early hit on there, so...
That's the one you saw her try. Really, it's one of those, how did none of us think to try this before we did it? Because it's so much more easy to do and so obvious.
Yeah, this game, you might think that it's relatively unknown, but there have been some pretty notable people who've sort of participated in this game. So the three of us here, Enchantress of Numbers, Cal, and myself, have all run this game and done some routing for it. White Hat 94 has also done some work on both easy and normal mode and done some routing of his own. So a lot of people have taken a look at it. We've found some really clever stuff over the years. I've been running this game for probably about 3 years.
Outro Blue joga esse jogo por 3 anos. Meu Deus do céu.
History, a lot of new stuff has come up. This is another sort of new boss fight mechanic. This is a very frustrating boss fight to do the right way. You're supposed to fall down to the bottom and try to volley these shots back up, which is just the worst thing.
A luta era pretendida que você ficasse na parte de baixo e ficasse jogando os monstros em ângulos, mas eles acharam essa maneira melhor de fazer a luta.
Between lining it up correctly and actually getting the hit to wrap around the corner so it bounces back, it's very difficult.
Notem que mesmo na água, a aceleração de ficar em cima de um monstro continua funcionando.
Yeah, this continuing in the trend of borrowing from Super Mario Brothers games, this water level here implements the same water mechanic you might remember from SMB1 with sort of this suction down, pulling down, and unfortunately, whereas with Super Mario Brothers 1, it's maybe not that big of a deal.
Também é importante, se você atacar um monstro e empurrá-lo e ele ricochetear de volta para você, você recebe dano. Como vocês podem ver agora. Então também esses rebotes tem que ter tem que tomar muito cuidado.
Getting 2 hits on a single cycle in this fight right here is...
It saves about 10 seconds total if you get both of them. Because it skips a really long swimming animation.
Yeah, again,
that was incredibly fast. Yeah. That is a really challenging fight to do.
Eles estavam falando que essa luta era esperada tomar pelo menos uns 2 de dano, mas ela conseguiu fazer tranquilamente. Então foi uma luta muito boa.
So getting one double on that boss is difficult. Getting both of them is very, very well done.
So this is sort of the dairy world. Everything's milk and cheese and...
We're in Wisconsin.
Basically. Unfortunately, they also decided to make most of the ground sticky or bouncy and remove the floor, so it's not pretty.
Here's the bell power-up again. So you
Aí,
see this
ó,
twice, this level and the first level.
o sino do poder, né?
Runs
Que faz com que o bebê
faster.
ande em pé,
Jumps higher.
perca o
It's really
chocalho,
sad
mas
because when you first start to look at this game as a speedrun and you see that in the first stage, you think, wow, this is going to be a really cool speedrun, and then they never use that power-up ever.
So this is the section I mentioned earlier.
esse salto que ela faz pulando, batendo no bicho e ficando em cima é muito difícil.
So this is another example of sort of subverting the level design. You're supposed to have to stay at the bottom of the room and try to get a good bounce to hit the pig, but you know, this is one of those examples of using one of the enemies as a platform to just...
Se bater com o chocalho direto dá dano no boss, não.
You can do it from either side. I usually do it from the right because it's safer, but it does cost you about 2 to 3 seconds.
Right. So this is another eating level. This one is a lot easier than the
Bem,
early one.
mais um estágio de comida.
Has the
Ele vai tomar
issue of having a lot more enemies around that are more
damage de boost aqui.
And so you get hit a lot more often. This one, avoiding the enemies tends to be a little more straightforward. So
yeah, this is also a very nice stage.
It is nice.
It is a very nice stage.
Nice is the way I would describe this stage.
So the pink mice behave much like the moles did in 1-2. The green mice just beeline it for you. They will go wherever they need to go to get to you as fast as they can.
Nice.
Yeah, nice stage. Nice.
I don't need to even be looking at chat right now to know what's going on there.
Nice.
And so this very nice stage is followed up with, I would say, the most difficult stage of the run.
Yes, the worst.
Eles estão falando que esse estágio agora é o mais difícil da run.
Anyone who's ever quit speedrunning this game probably did it because of this level. This is a really frustrating level because in this level, all of the floor has been replaced with bouncy or sticky.
Estou falando que todo o chão foi trocado por ou coisas que fazem você pular forçadamente, ou por coisas que prendem você. Então você vai tentar o máximo possível fugir desse do chão dele.
Yeah, and this also has the worst boss fight of the game.
Unquestionably, that there is. That is not even debatable. And again, you'll see why. So again, this is the game rewarding you for doing what it expects you to do. Once you drop off and start bouncing there, as long as you just keep moving right, you will line up basically perfectly.
So this floor that EnchantressOfNumbers is on,
essa é a luta mais
she
complicada.
doesn't have a choice but to keep bouncing if she's standing on it. And now she has to do these same precise hits and bounces and return volleys.
Tá, essa sequência de padrões é o que ela precisa fazer para manter uma luta boa, e foi muito bom.
That's the strap.
Yeah, that initial triple that she got is ridiculously difficult between timing when you're falling down, timing the bounce, hitting enemies.
Essa sequência que ela fez é bem complicada. Esse ataque triplo que ela fez primeiro, depois o ataque duplo.
So this is the long fall stage. This is notably actually the only level in the game where they turned off the fall stun mechanic. No matter how far she falls, she will not get fall stun, even if she lands on the ground properly.
Lembra que eu falei que quando você cai, você pode ficar atordoado dependendo da altura? Nesse estágio, e apenas nesse estágio, foi removido. Não sei quanto tempo a Enchantress joga. Até porque a leaderboard é meio calma.
Allow horizontal wrapping, though it rarely matters. The boss can't be pushed off screen in that way, and it typically doesn't benefit you to actually move that way. It's just sometimes you can hit an enemy off screen and it returns on the other side.
So here we have a new enemy, the black bombs. If you get too close in their line of sight, they will explode and launch projectiles at you, and those can cause problems. They can also assist you.
A lot of the movement in this stage is fastest by virtue of either damage boosting through things or by just avoiding the black bombs entirely, just so that they don't blow up and interrupt things.
Agora a gente tem os elefantinhos voadores arremessadores. Que arremessam. Não é sushi? Qual é o nome disso?
Bolinho de arroz?
Não era esse nome que eu queria, mas tudo bem.
Acho que o nome é Onigiri.
É, Onigiri.
Onigiri. Muito obrigado.
And here we're entering into 7-3, which is the longest stage in the game. It's also notably the last stage in the game. 2 boss fights in a row at the end of it.
So there's gonna be a whole lot of damage boosting here.
Vai ter muitos damage boosts aí, para não perder tempo. Como vocês podem ver, os damage boosts, quando são intencionais, ela pula e ela inverte no último momento para que o knockback, né, a porrada que você toma, te jogue, ela normalmente joga para trás e aí ela inverte para que o pulo para trás já seja para a direção que quer. E aí, esse é um exemplo do stun, né, do atordoado que acontece quando você cai de muito alto.
Yeah, this level was the introduction of the infamous beeb. All the blocks always end up spelling that out. What it means, I'll never know. I assume Konami will take that to their grave. It's like they're trying to communicate with us.
So these golden elephants, if you do happen to drop into the middle of the level, they can cause a whole lot of problems because, again, like the green mice, they will hunt you down.
Não, ok, resolveu.
The swag boost, so it costs a couple seconds to miss it. It saves almost no time, but I figured we had to go for swag.
Yeah. So
here's our final
friend Snake Boss.
Our Snake Boss friend one more time. Fortunately, we'll be able to stun him, and our health isn't really a situation because it'll refill right after this fight.
Boa luta. E esse é o último chefe. O tempo vai ser quando acabar essa luta.
By the way, we didn't talk about the story, but this is the guy that turned everyone in the world into monsters. We're the only one who survived. We're a biological miracle. Do you think that's where the name came from?
Oh, you know, possibly.
Tá difícil conseguir uns ângulos bons.
Alright, and time is when the screen fades to black, so.
E quando acabar, quando for ficar escuro, e salva todos os bebês.
Time.
E tempo.
Wow. That's a really great time.
That's more than just a really, really great time.
That is the fastest recorded time, so that would
be
a world
recorded
record.
World record.
E é um world record, gente. Esse é o tempo mais rápido gravado do Biomarco Bokutte Upa.
Caramba. É o primeiro world record dessa SGDQ.
Thank you all for having me and watching, and stay tuned for all the great runs coming up.
Eu falei que era um jogo bom.